Welcome to the congregation of Yahweh. We're here on Yahweh's Sabbath day to fellowship with one another, to study the Word, to draw close to Yahweh, to one another, to fellowship. Greetings to those on the internet. We hope that you receive a blessing from the messages that go out. Today's message is entitled, Sow Faith and Reap Results. Many times, in our lives, it's easy to give up hope. It's easy to expect the worst. It's easy to expect negative things to happen, but is that Yahweh's will for our lives, to expect negative? Or should we be prepared? Be prepared for negative, but expect positive things. Hope for the best. And to believe that He's in control. I want to start off with Hebrews chapter 11. Hebrews chapter 11, starting in verse 1. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. I went ahead and got some translations going on here. This word faith comes from the Greek 4102. Means to be persuaded of, convicted of, reliance upon, assurance, believing and trusting in. This word substance comes from 5287 in the Greek. It is the essence of something. The word hope, 1679, it is something you expect, your expectation. So faith is the essence of what you are expecting. And the evidence comes from the 1650, means the proof. It's the proof of what you do not see. For by it, by this faith, the elders obtain a good report. The ancients, the ones that the scriptures are writing about, good things are witnessed of them because of their faith. And it wasn't just what they believed mentally, it's how they acted out, how they walked out their faith. What they did was proof that their faith was genuine, that they really believed and trusted in their Father. Their actions proved it. And by that faith they obtained a good report. Through faith we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of Yahweh, so that the things which are seen were not made of things which do appear. By faith Abel offered unto Elohim a more excellent sacrifice than Cain, by which he obtained witness that he was righteous. His actions proved that he was righteous. Elohim testifying of his gifts, and by it he being dead yet speaketh. By faith Enoch was translated that he should not see death, and was not found, because Elohim had translated him. For before his translation he had this testimony, or this witness, that he pleased Elohim. Now, was it his thoughts that pleased Yahweh? Or was it his actions that pleased Yahweh? Or was it both? But without faith, it is impossible to please Him. Think about that for a minute. Without trusting, relying upon, confidence in, being assured of, being persuaded that He is able to perform, you cannot please Him. Does it please Him when we lack faith, when we say, oh, well, it's just not going to work out. Things just don't look good. We are speaking negativity. We're not giving Him room to work. He knows everything that we need. But when we ask Him, and then He works, it is a guarantee where it's coming from. He might know that I need a car to get somewhere. Should I just wait around for Him to put a car in my life? Or should I say, Father, I really need a car to get somewhere. Then when I get it, thank you, Father, I know where it came from. By asking in faith, I gave Him room to move. Continuing on. But without faith it is impossible to please Him. For he that comes to Elohim must believe that He is, and must believe that He's the rewarder of them that diligently seek Him, or earnestly seek Him. Believe that He is the one rewarding. He's the one doing the action. You have to do this or you're not pleasing Him. By faith, Noah, being warned of Yahweh concerning things not seen as yet, moved with fear, prepared an ark to the saving of his house, by the which he condemned the world and became heir of the righteousness which is by faith. This man created a huge vessel to hold not just 2 by 2, but 7 groups of clean animals and 4 pairs of unclean animals. That's a large vessel, and he did it by faith. His actions proved that he believed what he was told.
And he was 600.
By faith, Abraham, when he was called to go out into a place which he should after receive for an inheritance, obeyed. He went out, not knowing where he was going. He wandered out because he believed. And it was the actual going out that proved his faith was genuine. By faith he sojourned in the land of promise as in a strange country, dwelling in tabernacles with Isaac and Jacob, the heirs with him of the same promise. For he looked for a city which hath foundations, whose builder and maker is Elohim. Through faith also Sarah herself received strength to conceive seed, and was delivered of a child when she was past age, because she judged him faithful who had promised. This happened because, as we read through here, we're going to see through faith, through faith, through faith, through faith. And what follows is action, action, action. We believe, therefore we do, and we speak according to what we believe. Therefore sprang there even of one as him, as good as dead, so many as the stars of the sky in multitude, and as the sand which is by the seashore innumerable. These all died in faith, not having received the promises, but having seen them afar off, and were persuaded of them, and embraced them, and confessed that they were strangers and pilgrims on the earth. For they that say such things declare plainly that they seek a country. And truly, if they had been mindful of that country from whence they came out, they might have had opportunity to have returned. But now they desire a better country, that is, a heavenly. Wherefore Yahweh is not ashamed to be called their Elohim, for He hath prepared for them a city. By faith Abraham, when he was tried, offered up Isaac, and he that had received the promises offered up his only begotten son, of whom it was said that in Isaac shall thy seed be called, accounting that Elohim was able to raise him up even from the dead, from whence also he received him in a figure. That story is highly symbolic, but we won't talk about that today. But if you go back and read the story, he's about to take Isaac with him to do this the sacrifice, and he told his servants, he said, "We will be back." He told them, me and this boy. He was just commanded to go sacrifice his son, but he told his servants, me and the child will be back. And here he says he knew that he could raise him from the dead because the promise was through him. He had to come back. So even if he was about to perform the sacrifice, he knew that the promise would still be kept through him. Continuing on, By faith, Isaac blessed Jacob and Esau concerning things to come. By faith, that's while we're talking about words of activation, activating words. When Jacob came in deceitfully to be blessed, to receive Esau's blessing, he got the blessing. Then Esau came in, he wanted the blessing. He said, I can't do it. The words have already been activated. Even though I thought it was you, when I blessed somebody else, that blessing is going to come to pass. It was already activated. The words activated. I can't take it back. I'm sorry. So that just shows us the importance of our words, especially negative words. We can activate negative words. By faith, Jacob, when he was dying, blessed both the sons of Joseph and worshipped leaning upon the top of his staff. By faith, Joseph, when he died, made mention of the departing of the children of Israel and gave commandment concerning his bones. By faith, Moses, when he was born, was hid 3 months of his parents because they saw he was a proper child and they were not afraid of the king's commandment. By faith, Moses, when he was come to years, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of Elohim than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season, esteeming the reproach of the Messiah greater riches than the treasures in Egypt, for he had respect unto the recompense of the reward. By faith he forsook Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king, for he endured as seeing him who is invisible. Through faith he kept the Passover and the sprinkling of blood, lest he that destroyed the firstborn should touch them. They believed what Yahweh said was about to happen, and through faith they performed the service. By faith they passed through the Red Sea as by dry land, which the Egyptians, saying to do, were drowned. By faith the walls of Jericho fell down after they were compassed about 7 days. By faith the harlot Rahab perished not with them that believed not, when she had received the spies with peace. And what shall I more say? For the time would fail me to tell of Gideon, and of Barak, and of Samson, and Jephthah, and David also, and Samuel, and of the prophets, who through faith subdued kingdoms, wrought righteousness, obtained promises, stopped the mouths of lions, quenched the violence of fire, escaped the edge of the sword, out of weakness were made strong, waxed valiant in fight, turned to flight the armies of the aliens. Women received their dead, raised to life again, and others were tortured, not accepting deliverance that they might obtain a better resurrection. He's naming all these things that were accomplished. And it was because of their faith in Yahweh, believing that He was the rewarder. They were stoned, sawn asunder, were tempted, slain with the sword. They wandered about in sheepskins and goatskins, being destitute, afflicted, and tormented, of whom the world was not worthy. They wandered in deserts, and in mountains, and in dens, and in caves of the earth. And these all, having obtained a good report through faith, received not the promise, Elohim having provided some better thing for us, that they without us should not be made perfect. Let's flip over to Romans chapter 4 real quick. Starting in verse 13. For the promise that he should be the heir of the world was not to Abraham or to his seed through the law, but through the righteousness of faith. For if they which are of the law be heirs, faith is made void, and the promise made none effect, because the law works wrath. For where no law is, there is no transgression. Therefore it is of faith, that it might be by grace, to the end the promise might be sure to all the seed, not to that only which is of the law, but to that also which is of the faith of Abraham, who is the father of us all. As it is written, I have made thee a father of many nations, before him whom he believed, even Yahweh, who quickens or brings to life the dead, and calls those things which be not as though they were, things that aren't, calling them as if they are. Who against hope believed in hope, that he might become the father of many nations, according to that which was spoken, so shall thy seed be. And being not weak in faith, he considered not his own body now dead, when he was about 100 years old, neither yet the deadness of Sarah's womb. He staggered not at the promise. He didn't stumble. He didn't hesitate to believe. Yahweh said it, he believed it, and that's the way it was. He staggered not at the promise of Elohim through unbelief, but was strong in faith, giving honor to Elohim, and being fully persuaded that what he had promised, he was able to perform. And therefore it was imputed to him for righteousness. Being fully persuaded that what he had promised, he was able to perform, and that was imputed unto him for righteousness. James chapter 2. Faith and action go hand in hand. James chapter 1, starting in verse 22, says, But be ye doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving your own selves. Romans chapter 2 says, Be doers of the Torah, and not hearers only. Verse 23, For if any be a hearer of the word, and not a doer, he is like a man beholding his natural face in a glass. For he beholds himself, and goes his way, and straightway forgets what manner of man he was. But whosoever looketh into the perfect law of liberty, and continues therein, he being not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, this man shall be blessed in his deed. I want to skip over to chapter 2 here. In verses 1 through 9, he talks about having respect of persons, seeing a rich man and showing favoritism to him just because of his apparel, but just because of his social status. And then he gives favor to the rich, and he tells the poor man, well, you go sit over here. And in starting in verse 9, But if you have respect to persons, you commit sin, and are convinced of the law as transgression. He's saying if you do this, the law is pointing out your sin, because the law is a schoolmaster. I had not known sin except through the law, because by the law is the knowledge of sin. 1 John said sin is transgression of the law. Well, what law is being transgressed here? Continue on. For whosoever shall keep the whole law and yet offend in one point, he is guilty of all. For he that said, do not commit adultery, said also, do not kill. Now if thou commit adultery, yet if thou kill, thou art become a transgressor of the law. I'm sorry, I missed. Oh, I'm sorry. The part of the law that was being broken here is in verse 8. Love thy neighbor as thyself. So we know what Torah he's talking about here. And in verse 12, so speak ye, and so do as they that shall be judged by the law of liberty. This word liberty means freedom. It comes from 1658. And back in in John chapter 8, when he spoke to the Jews that believed on him, he said, if you continue in my word, you'll be my disciples. You'll know the truth. The truth shall make you free. It's the same word. It's the same Greek word. The word of the Messiah, which is the Father's word that was put inside of him, if you continue in it, if you guard that word, the Father's word, it'll set you free. It'll set you at liberty. It's the law of liberty. That's what James is talking about. Continuing on. In verse 13, for he shall have judgment without mercy, that hath showed no mercy, and mercy rejoices against judgment. What does it profit, my brethren, though a man say he has faith, and have not works? Can faith save him? If a brother or sister be naked and destitute of daily food, and one of you say unto them, depart in peace, be ye warmed and filled, notwithstanding you give them not those things which are needful to the body, what does it profit? Even so faith, if it has not works, is dead, being alone. Now the reason I started off in James here is he's talking about being a doer of the word. And then he talks about being a respecter of persons. And he also ties that in with being a doer of the word. And by not loving thy neighbor, you've become a transgressor. And then he simply illustrates it with, if you don't have the works, your faith is useless. So continuing on, yea, a man may say, thou hast faith, and I have works. Show me thy faith without thy works, and I will show thee my faith by my works. Thou believest that there is one Yahweh, thou doest well. The devils also believe and tremble. But wilt thou know, O vain man, that faith without works is dead? Was not Abraham our father justified by works? If you read that verse right there to some of those out there in nominal religion, that Abraham was justified by works, that just totally contradicts everything that they've been taught all their lives. If you say anything about obedience out there in the modern religious world, oh, that's legalism. No, legalism is if I say you got to do it first before you get something. I'm saying you need the faith, and your works will prove your faith. Was not Abraham our father justified by works when he had offered up Isaac his son upon the altar? Seest thou how faith wrought with his works? And by works his faith was made perfect. It was the two things working together. It was the actions working with the belief, and it perfected the faith. And the scripture was fulfilled which says, Abraham believed Yahweh, and it was imputed unto him for righteousness. And he was called the friend of Yahweh. You see then how that by works a man is justified, and not by faith alone. Likewise also was not Rahab the harlot justified by works when she had received the messengers and had sent them out another way? For as the body without the spirit is dead, even so faith without works is dead. That's an amazing analogy. Just as a body without the spirit, it is dead, even so faith without works is dead. Now let's read a little bit about this faith. Let's go back to Numbers chapter 13. And read a good illustration of faith and the lack thereof. Starting in verse 1, chapter 13. And Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, Send thou men, that they may search the land of Canaan, which I give unto the children of Israel. Of every tribe of their fathers shall you send a man, every one a ruler among them. And Moses, by the commandment of Yahweh, sent them from the wilderness of Paran. All those men were heads of the children of Israel. And then he names them. And let's skip down to verse 16. These are the names of the men which Moses sent to spy out the land. And Moses called Osheh, the son of Nun, Joshua. And Moses sent them to spy out the land of Canaan, and said unto them, Get you up. Oh, by the way, just while we're there, the son of Nun means perpetuity. And if you're into the symbolism and all these stories, Joshua was raised up after Moses to take them into the land of rest. And Joshua, Yahweh's salvation, was the son of perpetuity. Anyway, perpetuity. Thank you. And verse 17, and Moses sent them to spy out the land of Canaan, and said unto them, Get you up this way southward, and go up into the mountain, and see the land, what it is, and the people that dwell therein, whether they be strong or weak, few or many, and what the land is that they dwell in, whether it be good or bad, and what cities they be that they dwell in, whether in tents. Now, I believe that Yahweh said go check out the land. It seems like a few things might have got added in here. The land that they dwell in, whether it be good or bad, what cities they be that they dwell in, whether in tents or in strongholds, or what the land is, whether it be fat or lean, whether there be wood therein or not. And be ye of good courage, and bring the fruit of the land. Now the time was the time of the first ripe grapes. So they went up and searched the land from the wilderness of Zin to Rehob, as men come to Hamath. And they ascended by the south and came to Hebron, where Ahiman, Sheshai, and Talmai, the children of Anak, were. Now Hebron was built 7 years before Zon in Egypt. And they came unto the brook of Eshcol, and cut down from thence a branch with one cluster of grapes, and they bear it between two upon a staff. And they brought of the pomegranates and of the figs. The place was called the brook Eshcol, because the cluster of grapes which the children of Israel cut down from thence. And they returned from searching of the land after 40 days. And they went and came to Moses and Aaron, and to all the congregation of the children of Israel, unto the wilderness of Paran, to Kadesh, and brought back word unto them, and unto all the congregation, and showed them the fruit of the land. And they told him and said, We came unto the land where thou sentest us, and surely it flows with milk and honey, and this is the fruit of it. That should have been the end of the story. He said, go check out the land. They saw the land. Yep, it's full of milk and honey. That's all you need to know. But instead, the rest of the story. And they told him, nevertheless, the people, be strong that dwell in the land, and the cities are walled and very great. And moreover, we saw the children of Anak there. The Amalekites dwell in the land of the south, and the Hittites, and the Jebusites, and the Amorites dwell in the mountains, and the Canaanites dwell by the sea and by the coast of Jordan. And Caleb stilled the people before Moses and said, Let us go up at once and possess it, for we are well able to overcome it. Why? Because Yahweh said it was going to happen. But the men that went up with him said, We be not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than we. They were trying to rely on self. After all they've been through, after all they've seen, they still didn't trust in Yahweh. And they brought up an evil report of the land which they had searched unto the children of Israel, saying, The land through which we have gone to search it is a land that eats up the inhabitants thereof, and all the people that we saw in it are men of great stature. And there we saw the giants, the son of Anak, which come of the giants, and we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight. And all the congregation lifted up their voice and cried, and the people wept that night. A little leaven Leaven's the whole lump. And all the children of Israel murmured against Moses and against Aaron, and the whole congregation said unto them, Would that we had died in the land of Egypt, or would that we had died in the wilderness. And wherefore has Yahweh brought us unto this land to fall by the sword, that our wives and our children should be a prey? Were it not better for us to return into Egypt? And they said one to another. And this is just another witness here. When we say doubtful things or negative things, we're supposed to be a people of faith that plant seeds of doubt in other people's lives. And wherefore hath and they said one to another, Let us make a captain, and let us return unto Egypt. And then Moses and Aaron fell on their faces before all the assembly of the congregation of the children of Israel. And Joshua the son of Nun, and Caleb the son of Jephunneh, which were of them that searched the land, rent their clothes, and they spake unto all the company of the children of Israel, saying, The land which we passed through to search it is an exceeding good land. If Yahweh delight in us, then he will bring us into this land, and give it us a land which flows with milk and honey. Only rebel not against Yahweh, neither fear you the people of the land, for they are bread for us. Their defense is departed from them, and Yahweh is with us. Fear them not. Do not fear anything, because Yahweh is on our side. Paul said, if Yahweh be for us, who can be against us? But all the congregation bade stone them with stones. And the splendor of Yahweh appeared in the tabernacle of the congregation before all the children of Israel. And Yahweh said unto Moses, How long will this people provoke me? Their lack of faith provoked him. Without faith it is impossible to please him. And how long will it be ere you believe me for all the signs which I have showed among them? I will smite them with pestilence and disinherit them, and will make of thee a greater nation and mightier than they. And Moses said unto Yahweh, Then the Egyptians shall hear it, for thou broughtest up this people in thy might from among them, and they will tell it to the inhabitants of this land, for they have heard that thou, Yahweh, art among this people, that thou, Yahweh, art seen face to face, and that thy cloud standeth over them, and that thou goest before them. Moses is trying to reason with him here. Going down to verse 20 here. And Yahweh said, I have pardoned according to thy word. But as truly as I live, all the earth shall be filled with the splendor of Yahweh, because all those men which have seen my splendor and my miracles which I did in Egypt and in the wilderness, and have tempted me now these 10 times, and have not hearkened to my voice, surely shall they not see the land which I swear unto their fathers. These people were first-hand witnesses of his power. And he said, because they have seen all these things, they've had all this evidence, and they still won't believe, they will not receive the promise. Surely they shall not see the land which I swear unto their fathers, neither shall any of them that provoked me see it. But my servant Caleb, because he had another spirit within him, and hath followed me fully, him will I bring into the land whereunto he went, and his seed shall possess it. Now the Amalekites and the Canaanites dwell in the valley. Tomorrow turn you and get you into the wilderness by the way of the sea. And Yahweh spake unto Moses and Aaron, saying, How long shall I bear with this evil congregation which murmur against me? I have heard the murmurings of the children of Israel which they murmur against me. Say unto them, As truly as I live, says Yahweh, as you have spoken in my ears, so will I do to you. Your carcasses shall fall in the wilderness, and all that were numbered of you, according to your whole number, from 20 years old and upward, which have murmured against me, doubtless you shall not come into the land concerning which I swear to make you dwell. Now what is actually happening here is their negative words are coming to pass. They're saying, we can't go in. So he says, yeah, now you can't. You won't go in because of what you said. You're not going in because of your lack of faith. But the two that spoke in faith, we can do it because He is on our side. Those are the ones that went in. But the end of the story here, well, after they heard their own pronouncement, their own words coming back on, they said, okay, well, now we're going to go up. They had already messed up in their lack of faith. So they went up and they tried to do what He told them to do the first time, and it didn't work. They were discomfited, chased. Let's go over to Daniel chapter 3. Daniel chapter 3, starting in verse 9. This is after Nebuchadnezzar had made an image, and after they played the music, everybody needs to bow down. And in verse 9, they spake and said unto King Nebuchadnezzar, O king, live forever. Thou, O king, hast made a decree that every man that shall hear the sound of the cornet, the flute, the harp, the sackbut, the psaltery, and the dulcimer, and all kinds of music, shall fall down and worship the golden image. And whosoever falls not down and worships, that he should be cast into the midst of the burning fire furnace. There are certain Jews whom thou hast set over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have not regarded thee. They serve not thy Allah, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. Then Nebuchadnezzar, in his rage and fury, commanded to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Then they brought these men before the king. Nebuchadnezzar spake and said unto them, Is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, do you not serve my Allah, nor worship the golden image which I have set up? Now if you be ready, that at what time you hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and dulcimer, and all kinds of music, you fall down and worship the image which I have made. This is a key to Revelations, by the way. But if you worship not, you shall be cast the same hour into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. And who is that Allah that shall deliver you out of my hands? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we are not careful to answer thee in this matter. If it be so, our Allah whom we serve, He is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace. And He will deliver us out of thy hand, O king. But if not, be it known unto thee, O king, that we will not serve thy Allah, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. An excellent illustration of faith. Whatever situation you're in, whether your bills need to be paid, whether you're sick and you need to be healed, if you're on your deathbed, whatever it be, He's able to do whatever He wants to. I believe that He can, and if He don't, I'm going to serve Him anyway. But if not, verse 19, then was Nebuchadnezzar full of fury, and the form of his visage was changed against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Therefore he spake and commanded that they should heat the furnace 7 times more than it was wont to be heated. And he commanded the most mighty men that were in his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and cast them into the burning fiery furnace. Then these men were bound in their coats, their hosen, and their hats, and their other garments, and were cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Therefore, because the king's commandment was urgent, and the furnace exceeding hot, the flame of the fire slew those men that took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these 3 men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down bound in the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king was perplexed, and rose up in haste, and spake and said unto his counselors, Did not we cast 3 men bound into the midst of the fire? They answered and said unto the king, True, O king. He answered and said, Lo, I see 4 men loosed, walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt, and the form of the 4th is like the Son of Allah. Yahweh did not deliver them from going into the fire, but He was with them while they were in it, and He saw them through it. Then Nebuchadnezzar came near to the mouth of the burning fiery furnace, and spake and said, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, you servants of the Most High Allah, come forth and come thither. Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came forth of the midst of the fire. And the princes and the governors and the captains and the king's counselors being gathered together saw these men upon whose bodies the fire had no power, nor was the hair of their heads singed, neither were their coats changed, nor the smell of fire had passed on them. Then Nebuchadnezzar spake and said, Blessed be the Allah of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who hath sent his angel and delivered his servants that trusted in him, and have changed the king's word, and yielded their bodies, that they might not serve nor worship any Allah except their own Allah. Their faith and the actions that followed by their faith was a witness to a king and to his entire kingdom, and they gave honor to him. Therefore I make a decree that every people, nation, and language which speak anything amiss against the Allah of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be cut in pieces, and their houses shall be made a dunghill, because there is no other Allah that can deliver after this sort. And they were promoted. Flipping over to Daniel chapter 6. Daniel is faithful to Yahweh. He prays 3 times a day. There's some people in the kingdom that are jealous of him, and they want to catch him, but because there is no fault in him, there's nothing they can do. In chapter 6 verse 4, it says that they couldn't find any occasion or error in him, but then it goes on to say that, well, the only thing that they can find is that he prays to Yahweh 3 times a day. So they want to set up a trap. In verse 7, all the presidents of the kingdom, the governors, the princes, the counselors, the captains have consulted together to establish a royal statute and to make a firm decree that whosoever shall ask a petition of any Elohim or man for 30 days, save of thee, O king, he shall be cast into the den of the lions. And verse 8, it says that the law does not, once it's enacted, it cannot be altered. And they catch Daniel praying in verse 16. Then the king commanded, and they brought Daniel and cast him into the den of lions. Now the king cast him into the den of lions. Now the king spake and said unto Daniel, Thy Elohim, whom thou serve continually, he will deliver thee. It was because of Daniel's faith, because of Daniel's faithfulness and his actions, that the king had faith. The king had faith in Yahweh because of Daniel. And a stone was brought and laid upon the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his own signet and with the signet of the nobles, and the purpose might not be changed concerning Daniel. Then the king went to his palace and passed with the night with fasting. Neither were instruments of music brought before him, and his sleep went from him. Then the king arose very early in the morning and went in haste unto the den of lions. And when he came to the den, he cried with a lamentable voice unto Daniel. And the king spake and said to Daniel, O Daniel, servant of the living Elohim, is thy Elohim, whom thou servest continually, able to deliver thee from the lions? Daniel, Daniel, Daniel. Then said Daniel unto the king, O king, live forever. My Elohim hath sent his angels, and hath shut the lion's mouth, that they have not hurt me, forasmuch as before him innocency was found in me, and also before thee, O king, have I done no hurt. Then was the king exceedingly glad for him, and commanded that they should take Daniel up out of the den. So Daniel was taken up out of the den, and no manner of hurt was found upon him, because he believed in his Elohim. And the king commanded, and they brought those men which had accused Daniel, and they cast them into the den of lions, with them their children and their wives, and the lions had the mastery of them, and brake all their bones in pieces, or ever they came at the bottom of the den. Then King Darius wrote unto all people, nations, and languages that dwelt in all the earth, Peace be multiplied unto you. I make a decree that in every dominion of my kingdom, men tremble and fear before the Elohim of Daniel. Again, because of people's faith, because of the actions that followed their faith, Yahweh received glory. Yahweh received the credit. Let's go over to Matthew chapter 8. One of my favorite illustrations of faith and trust in the Messiah. Matthew chapter 8, starting in verse 5. And when Yeshua was entered into Capernaum, there came unto him a centurion, beseeching him, and saying, Master, my servant lies at home sick of the palsy, grievously tormented. And Yeshua said unto him, I will come and heal him. The centurion answered and said, Master, I am not worthy that thou shouldest come under my roof, but speak the word only, and my servant shall be healed. I'm not worthy of your presence. I know where you're from. I know who you come from. And I'm not even worthy. But I know if you say it, I believe that if you say it, it's going to happen. And this is why he believes that. For I am a man under authority, just like you, having soldiers under me, and I say to this man, go, and he goes, and to another, come, and he comes, and to my servant, do this, and he does it. And Yeshua heard it, he marveled, and said to them that followed, Verily I say unto you, I have not found so great a faith, no, not in all of Israel. This man is saying, Yeshua, I know that you're under the authority of Yahweh. And because of the authority that you're under, if you say it, it's going to happen. And I say unto you that many shall come from the east and the west, and shall sit down with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. But the children of the kingdom shall be cast out into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And Yeshua said unto the centurion, Go thy way, and now as thou hast believed, so be it done unto you. And his servant was healed in the self-same hour. When Yeshua was come into Peter's house, anyway, it goes on to say, where is it at? Anyway, continue on in Matthew chapter 6. Let's flip back a chapter here. As we go through our daily life, we need to meditate on these verses here in chapter 6, verse 25. Therefore, I say unto you, be not anxious for your life, what you shall eat, or what you shall drink, nor yet for your body, what you shall put on. Is not the life more than meat, and the body than raiment? Behold the fowls of the air, for they sow not, neither do they reap, nor gather into barns, yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much better than they? Which of you, while anxious, can add 1 cubit unto his stature? And why are you anxious about clothes? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow. They toil not, neither do they spin. And yet I say unto you that even Solomon in all his dignity was not arrayed like one of these. Wherefore, if Elohim so clothes the grass of the field, which today is and tomorrow is cast into the oven, shall he not much more clothe you, O you of little faith? Therefore do not be anxious, saying, What shall we eat, and what shall we drink? Or wherewithal shall we be clothed? For after all these things do the Gentiles seek. For your heavenly Father knows that you have need of all these things. But seek ye first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Everything we need, he knows that we need them. Seek him first and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Therefore, Do not be anxious for the morrow shall take care of itself. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof, and the just shall live by faith. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.